In 1997, a graduate student mailed the governor of Massachusetts his own medical records, his diagnoses, his prescriptions. She hadn't stolen them. She'd bought the missing piece for $20. The state had already removed every name from that database. It called those records anonymous. So here's the question. If your name is gone, how does anyone still find you? And nearly 30 years later, can you get back out? Start with what Massachusetts thought it was doing. In the mid-90s, the state insured its own employees, so it held the records. Every hospital visit, every diagnosis, every prescription. Researchers wanted that data, and it's genuinely useful. So the state did what everyone did. It stripped out the names, the addresses, the social security numbers. What was left looked anonymous. 135,000 people were in that database. One of them was the governor. His name was William Weld. In 1996, he collapsed at a public event and was hospitalized, and that made the news. LaTanya Sweeney, a graduate student at MIT, went to Cambridge, where Weld lived, and bought the voter registration roll. $20, public record. That list had names on it. It also had zip codes and dates of birth. So did the health records. She lined them up. 6 people in Cambridge shared the governor's birthday. 3 of them were men. 1 lived in his zip code. Now, Weld was an unusually easy target, and it's worth being straight about that. He was a public figure, his hospital visit had been in the papers. A researcher revisiting the case years later argued that made him far more findable than an ordinary person would be. Fair. But the demonstration had already done its work, because it exposed the assumption underneath it. Everyone believed the name was the identifier. Take the name away, and the person is gone. That is not how identity works. You are not identified by your name. You are identified by the combination of ordinary facts about you. Your zip code isn't a secret. You share it with thousands of people. Your birth date isn't a secret. You share it with millions. Whether you're a man or a woman narrows almost nothing, but put all 3 together and the crowd collapses. Researchers have measured this. Working from census data, one replication found that zip code, birth date, and sex alone single out roughly 2 in 3 Americans. Not secrecy, uniqueness. That was 1 student with 1 public list in 1997. Now imagine it as a business. Because that is exactly what it became. There is an entire industry built on assembling people out of fragments. Data brokers. They collect information about you from sources you never interacted with. Public records, court filings, property deeds, loyalty cards, app permissions, your phone's location, sold onward by apps you forgot you installed. None of it on its own feels like an identity. Combined, it's a file. And in California alone, more than 600 of these companies are registered with the state. So who buys it? Advertisers, obviously. But that's the boring answer. The Electronic Frontier Foundation documented a broker selling police departments a tool that let officers pull up where a phone had been over the previous months by clicking on a map. Federal agencies have bought location data too. Homeland Security, the FBI, the IRS. And here's the part that matters. To compel that data from your phone company, they would generally need a warrant. To buy the same data from a broker, under current law, they mostly don't. The law hasn't caught up. Same data, different door. Which brings us to the thing that is actually new. California passed a law called the Delete Act, and it forced the state to build something that had never existed before. A single delete button. It's called Drop. You make 1 request to the state for free, and it goes out to every data broker on that register, all 600 of them. You don't have to find them. You don't have to email them one at a time. It opened to Californians in January. And from the 1st of August this year, ignoring it stops being an option. Brokers have to check that system at least every 45 days, delete what they hold within 90, and the fine runs $200 per request per day. But be clear about the edges. You have to be a California resident, and it only reaches the brokers who registered. A A company that never signed up isn't on the list and isn't reached. It's a real door. It isn't a wall. So, back to the envelope. What Sweeney proved in 1997 wasn't that one governor's file had leaked. It was that "we removed your name" has never meant "we can't find you." 30 years on, the fragments are cheaper, the files are deeper, and the buyers include people who would otherwise need a warrant. You can't uncollect what's already out there. But you're not stuck with it either, and for the first time in one state, there's a form. Your name was never the thing protecting you. It was never the thing they were using. That's Lifecasts, the forces shaping modern life. Subscribe for the next one.